Hi, I'm Shelley, and this is going to be my April-May reading wrap-up. I read 10 books, 5 in April and 5 in May, and I decided to just combine them together since it was into June there now. So the first one I read in April was this one here, The Cat Who Saved Books by, now I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Sosuke Natsukawa. It was translated from Japanese by Louise Heal Quay. And this one was interesting to me because it's a book about books. And this one, awkward teenager Rentaro, he's about to close down a secondhand bookshop that belonged to his grandfather, who passed away. And before he's about to close the bookshop, a talking cat appears with a request for Rentaro to help him. And they go through different mazes. I think there's 4 altogether was in the book. And so the mission sends them on a cross-dimensional journey to save books from abusive and negligent owners. From a businessman who leaves his books to perish on a shelf, to a publishing drone who cares only about bestsellers. So this one I found very interesting. On Storygraph, I find Storygraph has good descriptions of books. Through their travels, the cat and Rentaro meet a man who leaves his books to perish on a bookshelf, like I said before. An unwitting book torturer who cuts the pages of books into snippets to help people speed read. And a publishing drone who only wants to create bestsellers. And their adventures culminate in one final unforgettable challenge, the last maze that leads Rentaro down a realm only the bravest dare enter. And I really like this book. I do like books translated from Japanese. I'm not sure what it is. There's just something about the writing in the books. And according to Storygraph, they have previews for all their books that are on there. There's also a personalized preview that tells you why you might find this book interesting. But a general preview would be readers who cherish magical tales where books are portals to healing and courage in the face of loss will find this story deeply resonant. So I thought that was a good description of the book. So that's some reasons why you might find this book interesting. The next one that I read, actually I'll put it up here or there somewhere. The audiobook came out from the library, so I decided I wasn't planning on reading it, but I put it on hold from the library and it came through. So it's called Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, and it's also narrated by John Green. And in this one, it's a nonfiction, and the reason why John Green wrote it, in 2019, he met Henry Ryder, a young tuberculosis patient at Laka Government Hospital in Sierra Leone. John became fast friends with Henry, a boy with spindly legs and a big goofy smile. In the years since that first visit to Laka, Green has become a vocal advocate for increased access to treatment and wider awareness of the healthcare inequities that allow this curable, preventable, infectious disease to also be the deadliest, killing over 1 million people every year. In Everything is Tuberculosis, John tells Henry's story, woven through with scientific and social histories about tuberculosis has shaped our world and how our choices will shape the future of tuberculosis. I found this one very interesting. There was a lot of things that I didn't know about tuberculosis, because of course a lot of people think it's only from the past, but it is a curable disease that does, like it says in the book, kills 1 million people a year. And see, and in the Storygraph preview, it says, a reader who is captivated by narratives that bridge personal human stories with broader social and scientific challenges, seeking both insight into systemic inequities and a hopeful perspective on global health issues, would find Everything is Tuberculosis ideal. And if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you should for sure pick it up. The next book I read in April, I finally finished this one right here, and that's Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. This one is historical fiction, and it's about Grace Marks, who was convicted for involvement in the vicious murders of her employer and his mistress. Some believe Grace is innocent, others think her evil or insane. And this book here, Margaret Atwood wrote, she came across, I think, a book by another author whose point of view was more from the doctor's, I guess, point of view. And she thought there was something lacking in that and decided to write her own version of this story. This is fiction, but it is based on real life person, and this takes place in Canada as well. Let's see, and it was set in she was convicted in 1843, and so it starts off with her story how she came to Canada from England. And, of course, back in the 1800s, the world wasn't as, well, I guess it was much harder back then for women than it is now. Well, it still is hard in some ways here, but in Canada, the way women were treated back then, lower class than men, of course. And the Storygraph preview, Alias Grace is ideal for readers drawn to dark, reflective historical mysteries that explore psychological depth and feminist themes through a slow-burning, character-driven narrative. And I did really find this book interesting. It was told partly from Grace's perspective, so throughout the book you're kind of trying to figure out, is she innocent or is she guilty? And I did read an article about why Margaret Atwood wrote this book. There's actually also a miniseries or movie that was out a few years ago about this book as well. I've found an article somewhere, so if I think about it, I'll link the article down below so that you can take a look through that if it seems interesting to you. The next book I read in April was a reread, and that one is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. And this is a reread. This is the last book that she put out, which was in, let me see what year this was out, 2022, so about 3 years ago. And it takes place in some different time periods. Takes the reader from Vancouver Island in 1912 to a dark colony on the moon nearly 500 years later. So this one, there's Edwin St. Andrew in 1912. He crosses the Atlantic by steamboat, exiled from polite English society because of something he said at a dinner party. He enters the forest, spellbound by the beauty of Canadian wilderness, and suddenly hears the notes of a violin echoing in an airship terminal, an experience that shocks him to his core. 2 centuries later, a famous writer named Olive Llewellyn is on a book tour. She's traveling all over Earth, but her home is a second moon colony. And within the text of Olive's best-selling pandemic novel lies a strange passage A man plays his violin for spare change in the echoing corridor of an airship terminal as trees of a forest rise around him. And the third main character in this one, when Gaspari Roberts, a hotel detective in the black-skied night city, is hired to investigate an anomaly in the North American wilderness, he uncovers a series of lives upended. The exiled son of an earl driven to madness, a writer trapped far from home as a pandemic ravages Earth, and a childhood friend from the night city who, like Gaspari himself, has glimpsed a chance to do something extraordinary that will disrupt the timeline of the universe. So this one, there is time travel, of course, because there's different timelines in this one. And also, the Storygraph preview says, Sea of Tranquility is ideal for readers who enjoy thought-provoking, genre-blending narratives that explore interconnected human experiences across time and space through a lens of both existential reflection and subtle adventure. So I really did enjoy this book. It's one of my favorite books. I really do enjoy Emily St. John Mandel's writing. It always has, I'm not sure what to describe it. It's always like a bit of science fiction surrealism in the, sometimes you can't tell which is real and which is not, which I always find very interesting in her books. All right, next. Let's see. The last book I read in April is Record of a Spaceborn Feud by Becky Chambers. This is the third book. I think there's one more book in the series. It is a series, but they're all standalone books, so you can read them on their own, I believe, as far as I know. And this is science fiction, and it also has LGBTQIA+ characters in it. And this book is ideal for readers drawn to introspective, character-driven stories that explore human resilience and belonging through the lens of a fading seafaring society. In this book, I find science fiction, like a lot of things kind of go over my head, but the basic character narrative I find in science fiction books, like especially this one, to me, it's just people who have been exiled from their own homes. Like, of course, there was a disaster, rocks a community, and those people some people have to leave. And, of course, finding a new place. And you go to another place, and, of course, you're different than the people who live there. So I think anyone, like, basically they're immigrants. They're immigrating to a different place. So I find that there is some people who can kind of understand what these characters are going through. So in this book, the characters among them are a mother, a young apprentice, an alien academic, a caretaker for the dead, a man searching for a place to belong, and an archivist who ensures no one's story is forgotten. Each has her own voice, but all seek answers to inescapable questions. Why remain among the stars when there are habitable worlds within reach? What is the purpose of a ship that has reached its destination? So if you like Becky Chambers' writing, I'm sure you'd enjoy this one. The next book, the first book I read in May, I'll put a picture up here. It was an ebook, an early review copy I received from Simon & Schuster Canada. It is called Death on the Island by Eliza Reid. And this one, I think, Storygraph says, Death on the Island is ideal for readers who enjoy slow atmospheric mysteries layered with secrets and the subtle tension of closed communities. So, of course, this is, the description says, Agatha Christie meets Nordic noir in this brilliant debut. about diplomats stranded on a windswept Icelandic island with a murderer in their midst. A remote Icelandic island, a diplomatic dinner party, a murderer in the midst. I really did enjoy this one. Like I said, it was like slow, drawn out. There was a lot of different characters. And of course, everyone had a secret or two, so that kind of led to like trying to figure out which person is the guilty party. Like some people were guilty of some things, but not the murder. So, but the way they acted, you kind of thought that maybe they did. And I really did like the ending, to find out who the actual murderer was. It was unexpected. And the author, Eliza Reid, I believe she is Canadian, or she lives in Canada. And she did live in Iceland. So that kind of gave a different tone to the story. So if you like murder mysteries set on islands, of course the island is isolated, I think you would really find this one interesting. And the next book I read in May was an Agatha Christie. And that one is a 3-act tragedy. And in this one, there is a dinner party. And it says here on the back, Sir Charles Cartwright should have known better than to allow 13 guests to sit down for dinner. For at the end of the evening, one of them is dead, choked by a cocktail that contained no trace of poison. Predictable, says Hercule Poirot, the great detective, but entirely unpredictable is that he can find absolutely no motive for murder. So this one, of course, is the typical Agatha Christie. You have no idea who the murderer is till pretty well at the end. And in this one, Hercule Poirot does have trouble trying to figure out what the motive is, and so of course then to try to figure out who actually committed the murder. And I did like this one. I enjoyed that one. The next book I read in May was Life of Pi by Yann Martel. And this one came out in 2001, which was like over 20 years ago. And Life of Pi is ideal for introspective readers who enjoy contemplative tales blending survival challenges with philosophical explorations of faith and human resilience. And the description for Life of Pi on Storygraph is a fantasy adventure novel. The protagonist, Paseen Mulatar Patel, and he went by Pi for short, a Tamil boy from Pondicherry, explores issues of spirituality and practicality from an early age. He survives 227 days after a shipwreck while stranded on a boat in the Pacific Ocean with a Bengal tiger named Richard Parker. And the book is written, his story is written by an author, and then he talks about what Pi did when he was younger. He explored different religions, and explored his spirituality, and then it went through the shipwreck. And of course, where there was animals on there, there is some kind of gory details, animals, of course, what animals do to survive. And then, of course, his story after he does survive, and afterwards in the hospital, he's interviewed about the days he spent at sea and how he survived. So I really did enjoy this one. This is also one of the books from my TBR Veteran Jar. So it's another one off the list. And this was an interesting book, and I really did enjoy it. The next book I read in May is one of the Temperance Brennan series, Grave Secrets, this is the 5th book, and by Kathy Reichs. And this one, this book is set in Guatemala. An excavation unearths a chilling tragedy never laid to rest. There, the disappeared 23 massacre victims buried in a well in the Guatemalan village of Chupanya 2 decades ago. And of course, Tammy Brennan is leading a team of experts on the dig to piece together the violence of the past. A fresh wave of terror begins when the horrific sounds of a fatal attack on 2 colleagues come in a blood-chilling satellite call. So, of course, she has to team up with an investigator there in Guatemala and the Montreal detective Andrew Ryan. And, of course, Tempe quickly becomes enmeshed in the cases of 4 privileged young women who have vanished from Guatemala City, and finds herself caught in deadly territory where power, money, greed, and science converge. And I really did enjoy this one. And, I guess with all the Tempest Brennan series, the Storygraph preview, Grave Secrets, is ideal for readers who enjoy intricately plotted crime thrillers that blend historical atrocities with contemporary forensic investigations, appealing to those drawn to dark, morally complex narratives and meticulous procedural detail. Because in her books, I find she does go through in great detail the protocols and how the investigation happens on how it is ongoing. And I don't know if you've ever watched the TV series Bones. And of course, when the show comes on or comes back from commercial, it says, beware of graphic forensic content, which there usually is, and it is described very well in the book form as well. And that's that one. And I think there's one more book I read in May. And this one is a bit different. Fiction, contemporary literary thriller. I wouldn't really call it really a lot of thriller. This one is Leave the World Behind by Rumaan. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And this one is ideal for readers who enjoy tense, character-driven narratives that explore societal breakdown and human vulnerability through the lens of ordinary families facing extraordinary crises. So this is basically about 2 families. Family in this book, Amanda and Clay head out to a remote corner of Long Island expecting a vacation. Quiet reprieve from life in New York City, quality time with their teenage son and daughter, and a taste of the good life in the luxurious home they've rented for the week. But within a couple nights, I think, when they get there, a night or so, they get a late night knock on the door, and Ruth and GH, an older couple, claim to own the home, have arrived there in a panic, and they say that a sudden blackout has swept New York, and with nowhere else to turn, they've come to the country in search of shelter. So it talks about a few days of they still have power where they are, but there's no TV, no internet, no cell phone service. So they have no idea what's going on. This is kind of like how they interact, the 2 families interact, and try to figure out what is going on outside where they are. I think there is a movie, Julia Roberts is in it, I think. And from the clips I've seen of the movie, seems to be a lot different, of course, in the book, which a lot of these are. I think there's more action, I guess, to make the movie more exciting than the book. But it was interesting. I know there are mixed reviews on the ending, but I did like the way it ended, and I did enjoy the book. And that is it for the books I read in April and May. So if you've read any of these, comment below and let me know what you thought of them, whether you liked them or not. And I will see you again with another video soon. Thanks for watching.